Hey Jimmy, are you representing
All
Salem?
right. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, can you hear me?
Hey Jimmy, are you representing Salem?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, go
All
right
right.
ahead.
Go right ahead. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all this evening. And thanks again, Mr. Howard Tubman, for giving me the opportunity to speak with the community. My name is Jimmy Robinson, and I am representing on behalf of Salem Christian Ministries and its subsidiary company, Salem Enterprises, which is this umbrella company. Uh, Initially, from my experiences as a grad student at Georgetown University's affordable housing development program there, real estate development program there. During that, it was a period of time during that time where I was actually unhoused and homeless. And during that time, I realized that there were a number of grad students like myself, both in our country and foreign, that could utilize graduate housing. So upon looking at this property, one of my just questions was, what is the highest and best use for this opportunity? And upon doing some research, I saw prior in my research that there were some efforts to implement some graduate housing in the community. And just based on my experiences with graduate housing, how much of a blessing that was to myself at Georgetown University, I set out to create a similar project based on efforts that was inspired by the cities and that seen the community's needs and desires in the past. So with this project, we are proposing 17 units of graduate student housing, affordable housing for graduate students, particularly mainly one bedroom units and efficiency units. At the bottom, there'll be co-working space and opportunities for students to work below. So again, I lived in a similar model before in DC. The project was called 55H. And at the very bottom, as I mentioned before, there was co-working spaces for us to study, for us to focus, for us to work, for us to be inspired at the bottom, as well as housing. So one thing that inspired this project also was Mike is right, literally about 6 minutes away from that property, and some of those graduate students will be able to go from the project to the actual institution and focus. So with this, I think you may ask, okay, what may be my experience with this and what will qualify me? I truly believe that my experience being at Georgetown and some of the investors that I've connected with over time, some of those investors include some investors we're currently working with another project in the city, Mr. Peebles and his son, and as well as a number of other investors I've met over the years at Georgetown University throughout my time there. So I'm excited about contributing to my community. I am born and raised in Baltimore City, and inspired to. I actually did tennis camp in Druid Hill as well as a kid. So this is something I'm very passionate about, and looking to just contribute to my community and help this to present the highest and best use for this project. So again, thank you very much for your time, and I'm open to any questions you may have at the moment. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Um,
you. Um,
if there are any
if
questions, you
there are
can
any
put them in the
questions,
chat at
you can
this
put them
time.
in the.
So just as a reminder, everyone, please go ahead and add any questions to the chat. I'm keeping an eye there, and we'll make sure to ask Mr. Robinson. So, Mr. Robinson, we have our first question. Can you talk a bit about how you intend to finance the project? Oh, and please make sure to unmute.
And please make sure to unmute. Yes, sir. In addition, my main profession is community development and grant consulting as well. So I have experience with a number of organizations and actually applying for grant funding as well. And I plan to utilize those connections. And one key opportunity, I've also been an open access fellow while at Georgetown. I had experience to work with some industry professors at Cone Resnick, as well as Cone Resnick, as well as Munch Capital. Excuse me. So those two served as mentors to me and a number of others in the new market tax credit opportunities. So to answer your question, I think it's Darrell. I'm sorry. We plan to utilize a number of sources, including the new market tax credit, grant funding, and even some equities from some of the relationships I've built over my time in grad school to source and leverage any amount of loan we may need to take out. So I want to assure you all that I have the network and the experience to make a transaction like this work. And I think that's a great question, and thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
There are no other questions
No
yet.
other questions yet.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
All right. So our next question, Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson.
How will you guarantee that only students will occupy
the
property?
Yes, and that is a very great question. Thank you, Kathleen. To ensure that, one, I think that this is the beginning step of community engagement. I've had experience engaging with the community in Park Heights and in a number of areas in the city. So I believe that this is the first step. One is engaging with yourself, like Mr. Darrell and Ms. Kathleen, connecting with you all in the community. The second phase will be my community engagement will be speaking directly with the institution. So formulating a plan with them and ensuring, for instance, with Georgetown, with 55H, where I was, there was a direct connection and understanding and agreement with the building developers and the actual institution. So after talking with Mr. Harold, Nick, community members like the ones here, my next phase would be taking this connection and relying on my resources here with Nick and Harold as well to meet with Micah. So that would be my next phase of solidifying that agreement and understanding to ensure that we directly are serving the target population for the community. And thank you for that question. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Any other questions?
If there are no other questions, and we'll wait another minute in case someone is typing. We will release sale and development and So, Mr. Robinson, I believe there's no other questions. I thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll be in contact shortly.
Mr. Tubman, thank you very much. I appreciate y'all.
1 second. We got one. Nick?
All right. So a third question. Do you have a sense of the total cost of the project?
So right now, there's a rough based on our initial numbers, we're between 2.6 and 3 million initially. And again, we do want to have the co-working space there as well. So that's our initial financial model that we provided to the city. We know with the rise of cost of development too, those numbers are always subject to change, but that is our current initial estimated cost.
Could you repeat that number again?
Yes, sir. 2.6 to 3 million is the current estimated cost. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
If there are no other questions at this time, thank you, Mr. Robinson, for joining us. Like I said before, we'll be in contact with you shortly.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Tubman. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You as well. All right. Our next participant will be joining us around 6:25, and that will be Reverend Dr. Al Hathaway will be joining us at 6:25.
So Howard, we have one comment in the chat. It looks like Reverend Hathaway's team is here and is ready to do a presentation as a part of their, when they initiate the presentation, they have a PowerPoint to share. So
yes, Mr. Finney, you've been designated as a co-host, and you can, one second, I'll unmute you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm just going to pull the presentation so we can stay on task and time, starting at 6:25.
And again, you'll have 5 minutes intro and presentation, followed by a 10-minute Q&A. And thank you for being prompt.
Thank you.
And Ms. Brooks, you are unmuted. You can go off mute if you want as well. You're part of this presentation, I presume, right?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you so
No
much.
problem. Go right ahead.
As soon as Dr. Hathaway joins, we'll get started.
I've just admitted him.
Okay, perfect.
One moment while I clear. Dr. Hathaway, you can unmute.
Are you ready for our team?
Yes, sir. And again, there's a 5-minute intro and presentation, followed by a 10-minute Q&A. You can start.
Okay, Mr. Finney will begin.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Love Community Service Corporation, this is the Energy Technology and Innovation Center submitted for consideration. I'm LaRon Finney. I just want to quickly introduce our team. Our leader, Dr. Alvin C. Hathaway Sr., Sheree Brooks with Power 52 Foundation, Dr. Tyrone Taborn with Career Communication Group and the Foundation for Education Development, and myself, LaRon Finney with the Finn Group. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hathaway.
We have submitted this expression of interest for 1313 Druid Avenue, As a continuation of the momentum we have begun with the successful completion of the award-winning $15 million restoration of PS 103 Henry Highland Garnett, known as the Justice Thurgood Marshall Amenity Center. We have secured the funding for the restoration of 1239 Drill Avenue, the Juanita Jackson Mitchell Law Center, and the work is scheduled to begin in November 2024 upon receipt of our right-of-way permit. We have a proven track record for financing these types of restoration projects, and we envision a silver or gold lead restoration that brings back the gabled roof and retains many of its historic elements. We're well versed in the Upton Master Plan and will ensure this project is inclusive of all requirements related to workforce development, local hiring, Section 3, MBE, and WE goals. This project will bring energy and technology jobs to the community and adds to the area's tourist appeal by having a state-of-the-art interactive museum highlighting the accomplishments of Black engineers and innovators.
Here's our floor plan. Will be broken up into 3 levels: Power 52, Career Communication Group, and the Foundation for Education Development. And we want to turn it over to Ms. Sheree Brooks, who will talk about rebuild, restore, educate, and empower through Power 52.
Dad, thank you so much for having us. So again, my name is Cherie Brooks, and I'm the visionary co-founder, president, and CEO of Power 52 Foundation. We have been in existence for almost a decade before anyone knew anything about workforce development and clean energy. And so Power 52 owns and operates the first clean energy private career school in the state of Maryland. And we like to say that we operate on the front lines of environmental justice. So we are bringing all things environmental justice to Baltimore City. We definitely do workforce training. We're approved by the Maryland Higher Education Commission. We offer a plethora of credentials, and we want to bring this school to Baltimore City so that our community members has direct access. We do job placement assistance. So we are literally here to diversify the clean and green economy that's going on. There's so much money flowing in this industry right now, trillions of dollars with the T. And so we want to make sure that our community members has direct access and are properly educated. So we fight for clean energy justice for all every day. I was just at the Department of Energy for their Energy Justice Week, just having a voice so that we are at the table. And so what we plan to do is bring our training program to Baltimore City so that it's more accessible. And then also we would like in the park next to the building to have some clean energy activations so our people can see and know and experience it firsthand. So there's no question. And so that when these clean initiatives come their way, that they're educated and they can speak on it and identify with what's happening in this new green economy. So we're really passionate about it, and we thank you for allowing us to present today.
Thank you. So I'm going to represent the technology and innovation component, and I'm going to let a video play that will really talk about the International Respected Career Communication Group, what they've done in 39 years. I've been an internationally respected entity, but based here in Baltimore. And I think the video will show and implement and showcase the power of what we want to do with the center at 1313. Thank you. That concludes our presentation. We're open for questions.
Thank you. If our attendees can put any questions in the chat, any questions in the chat?
So just as a reminder, I'll be referring any questions up. So I know that the sound may not have come through on that video, so I think we can probably share the link to the video as a follow-up to the meeting, so that everyone can enjoy the sound if you weren't able to get it through the stream.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that. I could hear it on my end. Okay.
It happens sometimes, and we'll make the solution nice and easy and do it as a follow-up. So please feel free at this time, anyone, if you have a question, go ahead, drop that in the chat.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Finney, I'll tee the question up for you. As part of the presentation, your presentation discussed other buildings in the community that you've redeveloped. What is the need for this additional building, and kind of what is your plan for how this building kind of adds to your footprint?
As Dr. Hathaway can answer.
Yeah, I think so. Our primary cluster area is from Division Street, Lafayette Avenue, Madison, and Dolphin. That is our development cluster. This property, we believe, adds to the tourist attraction that will happen as a result of the Justice Thurgood Marshall Amenity Center in the 1300 block of Division Street. This will have a world-class interactive museum, as well as the clean energy jobs and training that Power 52 will bring to this community. So this section, I believe this section of Upton and Marble Hill is the historic tourist center of this community, and this adds to that our idea of this historic tourist center.
Thank you. So as our second question, can you discuss the plan for parking?
There will be spaces for parking. The lot is not a zero lot line lot. There's a space for parking in the what we call off of Stoddard Street side of the building.
So we have another question about the solar elements for the park. Can you talk a bit more about the plan around that?
Mr. Reed. LaRon, is Reed still on?
Yeah, she's on. So basically the back courtyard, and I'll let Sheree mention how they will implement, but the back courtyard will be specifically designed with solar powered activations, innovative technologies. But I'll let Sheree talk about her vision and how we will program the back courtyard. She's still muted.
You should be on. I gave her personal muting privileges, but I just unmuted her. Sheree, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. No, I couldn't unmute. My apologies. Yeah, so we want for it to be a natural feel. So things like permeable pavers, we would have in place, but maybe that there would be a sign explaining that, what that means, what green infrastructure looks like. We could have, some sort of, charging stations, benches with charging stations and solar powered lights and charging stations on the benches. Also, we could have a canopy for shading that also would have solar. So different natural feeling integrations in the space, but they would be informative to to the residents.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have continued interest in the parking plan. So it sounded from before, if you can clarify a bit about kind of the location of the parking in relation to the site and the plan around that.
Dr. Hathaway.
Is Dale Green on?
Yes, Dale is on.
Oh, yeah. Uh, If Dale's on, he can address parking.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. So as Dr. Hathaway had alluded to, there is a development cluster that Beloved has already sort of envisioned. And as part of that, there are surface parking lots that Beloved has in its development cluster, which includes the PS 103 property and also at the Union Baptist Church. And so in addition to what was discussed, there's some other parking areas that will be a part of how this sort of campus experience will be envisioned as we go forward.
Thank you. So we have an additional question that was sent to me. Can you talk a bit about the times when you anticipate the building would be open and when it would be active versus when it might be closed?
From conceptually, we're talking about basically normal business hours. There may be some special activities that may occur weekends or evening hours, but primarily it's a normal business hour.
So one additional question on the workforce development opportunities. What is the age range for the development opportunities for young men and women anticipated at the site?
Yeah, so we train 18 to 50 men and women.
And I'll just add on the energy, on the STEM and machine learning, that is ages 10 through 18 will be educated and exposed to science, technology, engineering, and math, artificial intelligence, and big machine learning. That's the demographic we'll target for that particular asset within the building.
And also, I would like to add that all of our services come at no cost to the community.
So we have one final question. So the property is zoned residential. In order to have a commercial use, you may need to have the property rezoned. What experience have you had with the rezoning process, and have you incorporated that process into your timeline?
When you think of basically community-based uses, we have had experience with the zoning process. We've used one of the best firms that really understand the nuances of that. We had that issue with 13 Division Street. We also had that issue with 1239 Drew Hill Avenue. And I believe we'll be able to address in a very amenable way with the community a zoning use that includes their interests as well as what this building proposes.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Reverend Hathaway. Appreciate
you.
you and your team stopping through. One final question, Nick, before we release.
The final question, how will you address large machinery noise?
That on construction or that's not clear.
I
Can we get clarity on the question in the chat? Are you talking about construction noise or noise after the project is complete?
Okay, when we talk about large machine learning, that's artificial intelligence. There's no noise or incumbents to the community. It's artificial intelligence, and within that, it's termed large machine learning around science and technology will be part of the internal educational process within inside the building.
Yeah, and there's no, I mean, as it pertains to our training, there's no noise either.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you participating in our community presentation, and I'll be in contact with you shortly.
Thank you.
Okay,
Now.
thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Up next, we will have Associated Black Charities with Chrissy Thornton and Bernard Sims. You are co-hosts. If you have a PowerPoint deck, you can operate it from your workstation where you are now if you would like. Again, 5-minute intro and presentation period, followed by 10-minute question and answer.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Ms. Thornton.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Chrissy Thornton, and I'm the president and CEO of Associated Black Charities, and I've had the pleasure of meeting most of you as we've taken the initiative to reach out directly. Associated Black Charities is a racial equity organization founded in 1985 by business and faith leaders in the historic Upton neighborhood. ABC believes that when Black people in Baltimore thrive, the entire community benefits, our whole city benefits. And through our programs, ABC fosters economic opportunity, we address workplace discrimination, and we promote equity in education, in housing, in health, and in criminal justice. For nearly 40 years, we have been at the forefront of promoting economic equity and racial justice across Baltimore. And our work serves as a lifeline to the Black community, tackling systemic inequalities and advancing opportunities. This evening, we are honored to share our vision for 1313 Druid Hill Avenue, which we know is a historic property that we believe can become a beacon of empowerment for Baltimore's communities. Our development team consists of myself, Alex Aaron of Blank Slate, a developer specializing in community-based projects with significant experience in Upton, Calvin McCargo of Design Hand Architects, who brings expertise in historic preservation and modern design, Willie Moore of Southway Builders, ensuring our vision is executed with precision and quality, and then John Laria, who has donated his services in kind to ABC from Ballard Spar, who would guide us through legal process of real estate and community development. We believe this team will ensure the successful redevelopment of 1313 Druid Hill Avenue, transforming it into a vibrant hub for the community. Our vision for 1313 focuses on 4 key areas, and this is the work that ABC is currently engaged in. ABC's headquarters, we would have the building serve as our new home. We would be neighbors to all of you. We would bring ABC in as an anchor institution for the neighborhood, moving our operations under one roof, ensuring our small staff has the stability and space needed to deliver impactful programs for decades to come. We'd also move into the space our current Racial Equity Training Center, which is a dedicated space for learning, for dialogue, for advocacy, and the home to our programmatic initiatives. We would shore up a digital inclusion center, located in our vision in the building's basement, a center that will address Baltimore's digital divide by providing access to technology, training, skills, and to empower residents to be able to thrive and build wealth through the digital economy. And then lastly, a community co-working space, a collaborative space for entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and community members to work, to network, and to grow. We feel the space will foster economic development, create opportunities for businesses, and nurture innovation. At our heart of the vision that we have for 1313 Druid Hill Avenue, there are several guiding principles that really steward our interests. The first is a preservation and respect for history. We are committed to restoring the historic character of the building and to honor its significance in Baltimore's heritage. We are committed to community empowerment and ownership. We believe this project is more than a building. We believe it is about reclaiming space for the community, providing resources, and fostering leadership, all the things that ABC believes in. Our plan would also be to encompass ways to increase community ownership and economic benefit, and we have engaged in those conversations with the city to do so. We believe in being a good neighbor. We're dedicated to collaborating with residents, being an advocate for the community, and ensuring we build trust and long-term partnerships. We believe that our financial strategy is ready. We have access to funding that can be secured immediately, and we would plan to complete the renovation within 12 months, ensuring a swift progress on the project. Lastly, we believe in community partnerships, and we're actively working with local organizations on shared space, on parking solutions, including a current partnership that we have with the current pastor of Union Baptist Church and the YMCA and others. We would also host regular forums, which is already an active part of our model, to ensure the community's voice is heard and integrated throughout this project. I would like to thank you all for your time and consideration this evening. Our interests, ABC's interest, is not part of a master plan. In fact, we do not believe that the continued centralization of ownership to one organization, one person, or a few entities will advance progress for everyday people. The redevelopment of 1313 represents a transformative opportunity, both for ABC and the Upton and Marble Hill neighborhoods and the broader Baltimore community. We look forward to your continued input and partnership as we bring this vision to life. We believe we together can create a space that reflects the values, the history, and the aspirations of all communities, specifically our community, and that we can together put together a space that will empower, uplift, and serve as a foundation for generations to come. And we thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. And now there'll be a 10-minute question and answer portion. And Nick Mayer will be reciting or reading the questions in the chat. So for the Upton Marble Hill stakeholders, if you can put your questions in the chat at this time. Thank you.
All right, so our first question is in relation to zoning. 1313 is a residentially zoned property. In order to have this commercial use, you may need to rezone the property. What experience have you had with the rezoning process, and have you incorporated that into your timeline?
We have. In fact, we very carefully put together our development team with individuals who have experience not only in historical preservation, but in the Upton community with zoning, residential and commercial. And we believe we have a very competent team that will be able to address those issues for us and not slow up progress in doing so.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
So the next question asks you to clarify about the master plan portion of your comment.
Yes, absolutely. We've actually had the benefit of meeting with some of the other interested parties in this particular property and in other development that's happened in Upton. We believe firmly and unapologetically in community empowerment. We believe that ABC having an interest in this building will also represent the interests of residents. We are concerned 100% about empowering Baltimore citizens, about empowering residents. When we've talked to some other interested parties, they've referenced a master plan of ownership. We don't believe that this is a game of monopoly where someone needs to own all of the pieces on the board. We believe that we should be addressing the needs as stated to organizations from the community. And so we took the time to meet with most of the community organizations ahead of time so that as we presented our plan, that it incorporated what we heard from real community members. We've heard other interested parties say there's a master plan of ownership and they're interested in bringing things into the neighborhood that benefit their own entities. And we're just, we come from a different standpoint. So I did reference that because we don't believe in centralized ownership with one organization or one individual. We believe in creating systems that will build economic empowerment specifically for Black people in Baltimore and thereby helping all people in Baltimore to strive and achieve success.
So just to follow up on this as a clarifying question. So there is a master plan for the community that came from community members.
Oh, of course. Yes. No, that's not what I'm referencing at all.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Understood. Any other questions? We'll wait another minute or so.
Okay, so our next question, can you how many full-time staff are at ABC?
We have 6 full-time staff members.
All right, how do you intend to address the increased parking needs of this proposal?
So we knew that parking would be a heavy consideration that we needed to focus on. We've worked with DHCD to navigate that question. We've also been in progress of establishing a number of community partnerships. As mentioned, we've established a partnership with the YMCA, with Union Baptist Church. We're used to, because we are leasing space at Baltimore Unity Hall and other facilities like that, we're used to navigating the parking issue around our programming. Many times we are engaging in valet servicing. We're engaging in leasing and renting parking lots from other entities through collaborative partnerships and community partnerships. And so we are keenly aware that parking is an issue. We would not want to create a scenario that would disrupt residential parking. And so that is something that is of utmost importance in our planning.
And there's another question, Nick, I think. Or I see the question, I'm sorry. The question was sent to me. What specific programming will you implement with the local community and city to increase Black historic significance within the community? And what are you doing now?
So one of the tenets of ABC's mission is to preserve historical, reverence and regard for Black history, and to use it to inform progress for Black people currently. And so it's integrated in all of the things that we do. We are an anti-racism organization, and we pull from a lot of historical happenings to ensure that we're creating opportunities and speaking out about the need for the creation of opportunities for Black people today. And so we are keenly aware of preservation of Black history in particular, and it's weaved naturally into all of our programs. It would not be something that we would create. It would be something that we would bring with us that we're currently doing.
Thank you. Another minute or so for questions in the chat.
So one final question. Pennsylvania Avenue is in the midst of a revitalization effort. Has your organization looked at properties along that corridor?
Actually, we have, and to be very candid with you, ABC has been in a process with housing since January of this year, evaluating properties all over the city. And DHCD was very instrumental in identifying 1313 for our organization because of the historical significance of the property and how it fit with our mission work, and because of other things that they felt would create a positive scenario for the community. And so we've looked at not only other properties along that corridor and in that neighborhood, but all over Baltimore. And over the course of about 8 months, this was a property that was recommended to us that we then fully embraced, and felt stood in agreement that it met all of the needs of our organization and would create the best scenario for us to serve people in the community.
And
thank you very much.
One last final question. Can you detail the history of ABC's capital improvements in Baltimore City since your founding?
Yes. And it'll be a short answer because since our founding in 1985, ABC has only ever once owned one asset, which was a building on Cathedral Street. That was gifted to the organization in the early 90s, I believe. That building became dilapidated, and the then leadership made the decision, a hard decision at the time, to unload it from the portfolio. We can all look back 20 years ago and decide what that leader should have done. And today, as I drive by that building and see what a beautiful example of architecture and history it is, I cringe every time I see it. But what I can tell you is that we're 39 years old. We do not own any assets. We do not own real estate. And so when we talk about the history of our capital improvements, that has not existed for ABC. There are a lot of reasons. Equity and racial equity in Baltimore is one of them. And so this is an opportunity for our community and for Baltimore itself to rally around an organization that has pretty selflessly and unapologetically served people in Baltimore for almost 40 years. And so we're looking at this as an opportunity, not only for ABC to step into ownership and capital improvements, but ABC to serve as an example for Black organizations, Black-led organizations, Black communities, and Black residents all across Baltimore. I can name, hundreds of projects that other organizations have had the opportunity to improve. This would be our first opportunity to do so.
With that, thank you very much, Ms. Thornton, and to your team for participating in our community presentation for 1313 Druid Hill Avenue.
Thank you so much.
We'll be in contact with you shortly.
Okay, we
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you. And next we will have AB Builders. AB Builders. Karim, you and your team will have 5 minutes introduction and presentation of your development plan, followed by a 10-minute question and answer session from the stakeholders here in Marble Hill Upton. Karim, you are a co-host if you wanted to tee up your PowerPoint presentation.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. How you doing? I am Karim Harriet. I'm a real estate broker and a developer in Baltimore. I have with me also Kenneth Burstein. He's the owner of AB Builders. I've done several projects with them, some of which we will go through in our presentation. Kenneth actually has the PowerPoint, so if I can ask him to load that up, please.
Let me make him a co-host real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kenneth.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes,
How's it going?
going well. Go right ahead.
Okay, give me 1 second, Krim. Let me figure out how to screen share here so I can pull up the PowerPoint. Do you guys know how to do screen sharing?
It would have to come from your deck, from your device. I don't have a copy of the
There should be a green button towards the bottom of the screen.
Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So now,
it's on the screen now.
All right, so I'm going to just start going into it, and it's just going through each slide. So the first slide being the proposal, AB Builders is proposing the redevelopment of 1313 Druid Hill into 16 exquisite luxury apartments. The vision is to enhance the historic neighborhood by breathing new life into the building and meticulously restoring its architectural integrity. This transformative project will celebrate the rich charm of Baltimore's historic structures, seamlessly blending classic elements with modern high-end features. The result will be a vibrant community that honors the past while providing residents with a sophisticated and contemporary living experience. The focus is with the luxury amenities, trying to bring a different level of inventory into the neighborhood. As you'll see as we go through the presentation, there's going to be a theater room, there's going to be a gym, there's going to be a lounge with a bar, fireplace, etc. So some of the things that you see in some larger buildings are going to be incorporated into this same building to try to bring a different level of living into the rental community in this neighborhood. So at 1313, we are elevating luxury living in the neighborhood with a range of upscale amenities accessible exclusively to the residents. Located in the building's basement, these features include a stylish wet bar and lounge area, which is perfect for events and social gatherings that can also double as a dynamic workspace. A dedicated screening room will provide an ideal setting for movie nights and other entertainment, while a state-of-the-art fitness center will be equipped with top-of-the-line equipment. We are maximizing every square foot of space in the building for optimal use, ensuring that residents enjoy a well-designed and functional environment with electronic entry and cutting-edge technology integrated throughout, setting a new standard for luxury living in the area. Go ahead, Ken, to the next slide, economics. So you'll see in a proposal that AB Builders has submitted a lender letter, approval letter for $3 million for this project. They have the financial backing needed to execute this redevelopment project independently, allowing us to move forward without reliance on any city funding. And there's years and years of experience in property rehabilitation and redevelopment. They've refined their processes to keep costs low while upholding high quality standards. This efficiency enables us to deliver a completed luxury apartment building that meets the highest expectations. Unit features and parking. So
We lost you, Karim. Couldn't hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just going into unit features and parking. So the apartments will boast impressive high ceilings and abundant natural light, creating an airy and welcoming atmosphere in large open layouts. With luxurious finishes and top-tier appliances, each unit will reflect a commitment to quality that sets a new standard for modern living. This redevelopment will mark the beginning of significant change in the neighborhood, encouraging economic growth and fostering infrastructural rehabilitation. By enhancing the physical appeal of the block, we aim to create a vibrant community that.
We lost you again. Mr. Harriet, we lost you again. Still can't hear you.
You said you can.
Now we can. Now
Okay.
we missed about the last 15 seconds.
Okay. So just going into the enhancing the physical appeal of the block, we aim to create a vibrant community that attracts further investment and revitalization. And to enhance convenience, the development will include 16 dedicated parking spaces, 8 off-street right behind the building, and 8 on-street, ensuring every resident has their own reserved parking spot. Timeline. So our goal is to have this building completed within 2 years, a timeline we can confidently achieve thanks to our extensive experience and dedicated crews. With a streamlined project management approach and established relationship with skilled contractors, we are well equipped to efficiently navigate each phase of construction. This commitment to timely execution ensures that we deliver high quality homes to the community without delays. In conclusion, AB Builders is committed to revitalizing the Druid Hill neighborhood by transforming 1313 Druid Hill into 16 luxurious, high-quality apartments. With our robust financial backing, industry expertise, and a well-defined timeline for completion, we are poised to deliver exceptional living spaces that enhance the community by integrating modern amenities and emphasizing spacious open layouts. We aim to create an inviting environment that appeals to residents and promotes neighborhood growth. We look forward to partnering with the city to bring this transformative project to life and contribute to the revitalization of the area. Please see our next slides for just a few examples of our previously completed projects. So this first one, and Kenny, you can go ahead and go into the pictures, this so they can see what I'm talking about. So this first one is 2105 Eastern Avenue, which is the old Patterson Penn's bowling alley. So we transformed a once distressed old duck pen bowling alley in the Patterson Park neighborhood into a stunning modern apartment building featuring luxury finishes throughout. After purchasing the building in rough condition, we gutted it, added a third floor, and created 15 brand new apartments. A vibrant ground floor and basement bar will open soon. It took a high level of professionalism and dedication to complete this project, revitalizing the property and enhancing the entire block. And we're proud to say the building was fully leased within just 4 weeks. Our goal is to replicate this success at 1313 Druid Hill, where we aim to attract a diverse community of residents. This new apartment building will not only provide high quality living spaces, but also invigorate the neighborhood, boosting the local economy and creating a vibrant community atmosphere. With our commitment to excellence, we're excited to set a new standard for urban living in the area, and photos of Patterson Park pins on these following slides, which we just kind of went through.
All right, thank you. Questions and answer time. 10 minutes for questions and answers. Please put your questions in the chat.
So our first question, what are the projected rents of the units?
Kenneth, go ahead if you can speak onto that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the rents depends on obviously how many bedrooms are in the apartments. We're still figuring out exactly what the layout is going to be of this building. As we sort of have been having like preliminary conversations with architects. But regarding the rent, it's really going to go off of whatever the market rent is within the area. So we're going to comp it out and
All right, so let me speak a little bit to that. So in the area, what we're seeing is on the 1-bedroom luxury, you're looking at generally somewhere in the 13 to 1500 range. Once you get into 2 bedrooms, you're moving up into like the 16, low 17s, and then we're not looking at having 3 bedrooms, but expected it'll be somewhere in those ranges.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
When you talk about market rate for the units, what areas would you be relying on to pull those numbers from?
So right now, we've done the two buildings we've done recently are one in Washington Village and one in Patterson Park. But we generally are going to be looking at buildings. We're looking at 2 things. Number one, proximity. So we're looking at, ideally within about half a mile to maybe 3/4 of a mile max. But then we're also going to be looking at similar amenities. So we may see, for example, that there are some 1-bedrooms that are renting for 12 and 1300, but they don't have a gym, they don't have a theater room, et cetera. So, we'll add that to the amenities to the pricing that we're putting together. We also, as a part of the process of going through our financing, there is a rent schedule that is done by the appraiser. And that rent schedule also gives us a lot of information beyond just what we would pull ourselves, that'll govern, what we can rent the units for.
Thank you. Nick, I'm going to take this next question. I knew somebody was going to ask it. The question is expand on 8 reserved on-street parking. How does that work? I'm going to interject here. That doesn't work. There's no such thing as on-street reserved parking spaces. Any required vehicle parking for the property would have to be provided on site. Street parking is street parking. It's open to the public. no such thing as reserving street parking spaces. So, and
Okay.
everyone, just so it's clear, everyone, please, this comment, there's no prejudice involved in this comment, simply factual statement.
Sure. So, from our standpoint, obviously we're in the beginning stages of this, and this is something that we wanted to say from an ideal standpoint. So as we are going through pre-development and as we're working with planning, we may have to make adjustments to that. So it may not end up being a total of 16. What we can say for sure is that there'll be 8 spaces. And, I think for what we're bringing into the community, if there's 8 vehicles that have to find parking somewhere in the nearby area, I think that we're bringing a lot more to the table than just the fact that, okay, there's going to be 8 parking spaces that are not there that were there before, But it's just a part of what we want to do. If we get feedback from the city that that's not a possibility, then, we have to go back and make some adjustments.
So one additional parking question. Can you just clarify where on site the parking would be located?
In the back of the building.
Any other questions? Please put them in the chat.
Are you able to share the name of your property management company?
Yes, the property management company is BAL Management.
And then one more parking question. So 8 spots total on site, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, just to emphasize, BAL Management, that's it's a sister company to us. It's a partner company. We like to do everything in-house because, that way we can ensure top service and, make sure everything's being managed correctly and that things are done right when they need to be addressed. So everything's in-house.
The follow-up to that question was just, is BAL Management located in Baltimore? Based in Baltimore?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Please put them in the chat. If there are no other questions.
There's one question related to the website for the management company, but feel free to answer that in the chat.
Okay.
I don't see I cannot see the chat. But regarding our website, it's under maintenance right now.
Thank you. If there are no further questions in the chat, we thank AB Builders for participating in our community presentation, and we will be in contact with you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
You guys have a great evening.
You as well. Next, we will have Mr. Solomon. And Mr. Solomon, you are a co-host. And can you hear me? I've taken you off mute. You can go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us this evening for our community presentation. You'll have 5 minutes for introduction and project presentation, followed by a 10-minute question and answer period from our Marble Hill and Upton stakeholders. Go right ahead.
All right, sounks good. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. First, do you want me to share myself or you have the
Yes, you can share.
slide?
You can share.
I can share. Okay.
Yes.
Let me share that first. It will help me move faster. That may not be the one. My screen is acting up a little bit. Can you see my screen now?
It says Solomon has started screen sharing, but nothing has come up yet.
Okay, what about now? It says the screen share is loading.
Must be
Yeah,
still.
let me know.
loading.
Let me know when it's ready
Will
or
do.
available for everyone to see.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
If you could go ahead and start. There you go. It's up now.
You can see it now. Okay,
Yes.
that's good. All right, first, I would like to thank everyone for coming, for giving me the opportunity to explain our proposal, our plan for development of 1313 Druid Hill. So I'll go to next slide. I do have a quick agenda. It will help me in 5 minutes. I should be able to finish it. If we go to about us, we have a mission, value, and vision. We have also a story to tell. I was visiting downtown Baltimore 10, 15 years ago, but I never had a chance to go to other communities outside of downtown. And one time there was a talk about shortage of housing, challenges, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, I saw some vacant houses and I was like, how can these two things have the problem at the same time? There is a shortage and then you have vacant houses. Something has to be done about this. That's how I started the business. I met Howard and the team from Vacant to Value. That's where I started buying in 2016. Since then, as you can see in the projects, we've been working in different projects and we've been expanding in Baltimore. So that's kind of how we started. We have a capacity to handle this kind of projects. As you can see, we are a team of architects, civil engineers. We have also contractors, subcontractors that do help us achieve our goal. If there is any question about each, I'll be more than happy, but in the interest of time, I'll try to go directly to our development approach. It's kind of industry standard. We start with acquiring property, with planning. Once we have that, there is a design, an engineering task that need to be done, site preparation. For the most part, we do home renovation, but the approach that I have is also includes for ground up building as well. So once you complete building or renovation, of course, you go to marketing and selling and then closing. This is kind of standard. For the project overview, as you can see, and I'm sure you are familiar with this beautiful building, the goal for our firm is to renovate 14 units. I think the city has invested enough money to stabilize it. Overall, it's in a very good shape. And we believe that 14 units can be accommodated. Most of them 1-bedroom, but there may be also 2-bedroom units. In the back side of the building, there is some space for 8-car parking. The total size of the building is around 13,500 square feet. So we do partner with contractors and subcontractors, small business owners to complete this project. We believe we'll need at least a minimum of $1 million to acquire and develop this beautiful property. This is kind of sharing our goal. A community engagement plan, as in any initiative, any project, without involvement of a community, it's not going to achieve its goal. So we do have a plan on how to engage with the community. So the first one is stakeholder identification. Once we have that, there is community outreach, reaching out to the community, people who live in the area. And then, of course, there are also regulatory compliances that we need to abide by. And then there is a need of transparency and communication. As in any project, of course, there is risk management, financing part of it that we need to deal with as well. But at the end of the day, this project is not going to be successful without working with the city and the community in the area. And this is how we plan to engage the community. Of course, there is also benefit for everyone involved in this kind of work. Mainly for the community, there will be more available units or houses. As we know, there is still a problem with affordable housing. Rent is going up, but we believe as we have more buildings, units are available in the market, I think the price can go down. And instead of seeing a vacant building in the area, such a beautiful building, I think once it's renovated, the community will greatly benefit from it. But the benefit also is extended to the city and the developer. The city, of course, the city doesn't have to spend additional money to maintain the property. And then there will be tax revenue coming to the city. And for a small business like ours, we'll have opportunity to do work and to expand our portfolio. I do have a timeline, but this is nominal because, as you know, with any project, you don't know how long it takes for this kind of acquisition process, how long it takes. But once we have it, assuming that it's going to be January, within a year and a few months, this should be able to be completed. So that's all I have for now. I was told that I only have 5 minutes, so I'll leave it to 10 minutes so that we can go back and forth with questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. At this time, we'll have our 10-minute question and answer period from our stakeholders. Please put your questions in the chat. Thank you.
I see the question. It's Dalak Partners LLC. That's the name of our company.
And that's spelled D-A-H-L-A-K?
Yes.
There you go. Thank you.
Should be somewhere in the slide, but yes, I can write it down if it's not
It's in the
coming.
chat. We have it in the chat.
I put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, here comes our next question. How will you finance the project?
Well, we have our own funding source, but we also work with banks, credit union for additional funding. But for the most part, we do leverage our own financial capability to fund this kind of project. We don't
Can you
depend
restate? Oh, go ahead, sir.
No, we don't depend on kind of public fund for this kind of project, but we may partner with banks if we need additional funding for this. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, of course. As our next question, can you restate your estimated construction budget and your projected rents?
It's going to be more than $1 million. That's kind of the estimated for 14 unit renovation. For the most part, the city has invested a lot of money to stabilize it. So roofing, the structure is solid. But since this is a historic building, there's a lot of requirements, and we believe it will need a minimum of $1 million. But even with rent, we can give numbers right now what we would like it to be. But there are a lot of factors that affect as rents, including the cost of the project. But for 1 bedroom, depending on the area, I'm also a real estate agent, so I know what the rent goes. But we are, for the most part, we believe in bringing housing for the community, and the price is not going to be something as high as we see in every other community. It's going to be affordable housing. But even if I give you numbers, I don't think it's going to make any meaning, because we don't know at this point and what it's going to be then. But if you ask me right now, for 1 bedroom, I believe it should be no less than $1,000. This is my personal opinion at this point. But once we have the whole renovation completed and housing are available, I mean, units are available, the market will determine. But the goal is to make it affordable for everyone.
Any other questions in the chat? Any other questions in the chat? We'll allow another minute.
Would you be willing to show the organizational capacity slide again, sir? That's our next question. Slide number 4.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Coming through clearly.
There was background noise, music. I mute myself and then I couldn't unmute. So thank you for that. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, it's coming through. Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
And Nick, I think there's a follow-up question to the PowerPoint.
Yes, of the projects you identified and listed in your slides, how many of them are buildings of this size?
Of course, this is going to be bigger for the most part. All of them, we do have different commercial, mixed use, residential, but for the most part, we've been under 4 units. So this is going to be bigger than what we have done in the past. So, but we do have 4 units, mixed use, residential, and commercial.
Okay. If there are no other questions in the chat, there's one more, Nick.
Are your 4 units houses that have been converted?
Are your 4 units housing that have been converted?
I think the question here is your multi-unit houses, were they converted single-family properties, and were they historic buildings with protections?
I do have one historic building that I haven't started yet, and I'm going through the permit process right now. But for the most part, as I told you, our business are focused in home remodeling. So they were existing houses that we have to remodel. But I do have one historic building that I'm going to work on soon.
Thank you. All right, Solomon, thank you very much.
Thank you. I really
Sharing
appreciate it.
your vision for 1313. We appreciate you taking time out this evening, and we will be in contact with you shortly. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right. All right. At this time, our final participant in our community presentation is Mitchell Park Companies. And Mark, I've made you a co-host if you have a PowerPoint deck that you wanted to share.
Great. Thank you so much, Howard. How is everyone doing tonight?
All is well. Thank you. Thanks for
I
joining.
appreciate you saving the best for last here.
Go right ahead. There will be,
Okay.
again, before you start, 5-minute intro and presentation, followed by 10-minute Q&A. Go right ahead. Thank you.
Okay. I am going to share my screen. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Or I'm actually going to take it out of presentation mode. I don't know why it's doing that. I'll go that way. Does that work?
Works fine.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Latenzi. I'm with Mitchell Park Companies. We are an urban infill real estate development, investment and advisory firm. We are based in Washington, D.C., and we specialize in historic preservation properties. What that means is we follow the National Park Service Secretary of Interior standards for all of our projects. We use historic tax credits. We have a lot of experience with historic tax credits in the state of Maryland and surrounding states as well. And we have currently either developed or have ongoing projects in Maryland. Really quickly, just a quick slide on some of those projects that we've recently completed. One, not in Maryland, but our latest and greatest is a project called the Stevenson, which is a historic tax credit multifamily building that revived an 1872 female seminary into 9 market rate units. We've done a whole lot of tax credit consulting for clients all over the country, nonprofit, for-profit alike. Most relevant perhaps is a barn that we actually consulted on for the Maryland Episcopal Diocese, one of the first historic designated barns in the entire state of Maryland, which was really impressive. And our current project on the boards is in Elkton, Maryland, 15 units of market rate apartments in a building that unfortunately suffered a fire last year. And we're hoping to close on that property in a couple weeks' time and get the pre-development started. So for our plan for 1313 Druid Hill, it is going to be, in a nutshell, an expeditious return of the building to highest and best use of multifamily residential. Pretty straightforward, but how we get there, I think, is going to be, very in a very particular way, because we want to have this building be market rate, reasonably priced 2-bedroom units. In doing a survey of the community and the housing needs in this immediate area, I do believe that type of housing is ideal for the property and for the potential layout of the building and for a whole slew of other reasons. But that is our plan here. To go into a little bit more specifics of what that means, starting off with the fun stuff. So when I say market rate apartments, I am talking about a total of about 8 to 10 2-bedroom units in this property. The units would include 2-bed, 1-bath layouts with things like stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, completely access controlled building, off-street parking to the extent that we can fit that in the rear of the parcel, in-unit washer dryer, basement storage, and third-party property management. If I was to fast forward a little bit to when this project would be completed, as of now, we're estimating that monthly rents for these units would be in the low 2000s per month. So what our project would also be entailing is a very professional development process. That is critical for historic preservation projects for several reasons, but first and foremost, we can offer a very efficient use of financing and a very condensed timeline for a project of this size, all while being very responsive to community and neighborly feedback and incorporating that as best we can. Obviously, with a building like this being residential, it's not expected to be something that is too contentious, I hope, but nonetheless, we have a great track record of being good neighbors, good stewards of historic buildings, and very receptive. We are long-term owners of our property. I often tell people we buy, we renovate, and we hold indefinitely. I have no intentions of selling any building that I work on, and nor do our investors ask that of us. when you use historic tax credits, you have to stay as an owner of the property and keep it rental for at least 5 years anyway. And so that in part guides our hand in that regard. Last but not least, in a project like this, we would also look to focus on the hiring of local trades and workers, local consultants, architects, all that kind of stuff would be as local as possible in order to keep the project and its benefits in the city and the community. Expected challenges for a project like this are numerous. The biggest and most notable one is that in the numbers that I'm coming up with now, using historic tax credits and with these rents of where they are, there is a little bit of a financing gap that needs to be solved for. Financing gaps exist on a lot of projects today, in part because of elevated construction costs and high interest rates. The good news is that with a historic preservation project, especially a transformative one in a neighborhood that is very much in need of it, there are other financing sources and grants that could be available to us, and we would certainly pursue those so that we would be keeping this project on track and on budget. Another challenge is with historic preservation requirements in general. You would hope that the historic preservation folks and the rules around them are supportive of converting a building like this into apartments. Sometimes there are still challenges and plans have to change. Things like elevators and egress to meet code are oftentimes challenges in small projects. And so at this early stage, it's a little bit of a question mark in my mind as to what some of those exact historic preservation concerns are going to be. Nonetheless, we have a lot of experience in navigating through them and working with not only Maryland MHT, but also a lot of folks at the Technical Preservation Services at the National Park Service. And then last but not least, I feel inclined just to still call it out these days. Construction and supply chain disruptions still persist in some areas, and you just never know what's really around the bend when it comes time to engaging a contractor and actually having them begin work. So always a top of mind concern that we have certainly navigated. Last but not least, project timeline. This is a estimated timeline and based on associated milestones. Just running through this really quickly. So let's say that we were given the go-ahead to continue negotiating with the HCD and ultimately executing some form of contract for the property. If that was to finish by the first quarter of next year, we would immediately begin, and even before then, if we knew that things were on the right track, we would begin pre-development planning and entitlements. We would be working on securing initial financing commitments and working on historic preservation applications. In full transparency, the hardest thing about historic preservation projects in the state of Maryland is the fact that the state historic tax credit application window opens once a year. And that is certainly not the most favorable for Maryland-based projects. That window opens in August, and so we would be certainly ready to submit our application by the end of August. Awards then come several months later in December. It would only be at that time, assuming an award, that we would be able to actually complete a financial closing and secure the rest of the project financing in early 2026. We anticipate a construction period of just under a year, taking us into early 2027 with move-ins starting in the spring of 2027. And that is all I have. So happy to take any questions from anyone.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, we'll take any questions in the chat. Any questions in the chat? Thank you.
I've never presented in 5 minutes before, so it's a welcome challenge.
Did a great job. Any questions in the chat?
All right, our first question. So do you have a backup plan if you're unable to secure historic tax credit financing?
So I would say that when it comes to financing projects like this, historic tax credits make up a really substantial piece of the overall sources of financing. And so because of that piece is so substantial, up to a third or more of the entire project budget, that's a very, very large deficit to make up without credits. And I wish I could say that I have a great plan B for that. But the reality is that no, I don't know that a project like this would be entirely feasible without historic tax credits.
Thank you. Any questions in the chat, please?
And perhaps while some folks are coming up with other questions, I'll just add one more little nuance to that. While the state historic credit is competitive in Maryland, and there's always a chance that a project is not successful, and certainly a lot of projects, worthwhile projects in Baltimore City apply for these credits. The federal credit is not competitive, and so that we can certainly expect to receive. And if that was the case, I would feel a little bit better about trying to make up for the absence of state historic proceeds, but it still would be a pretty big uphill effort.
And if I could chime in, not just for this particular proposal, but for any kind of proposal, the 1313 Druid Hill is a Baltimore City designated landmark, which means that it is eligible for the city's historic preservation tax credit, aka the CHAP tax credit.
I'm certainly building that in here for sure.
So again, that exists for not just this proposal, but any sort of proposal. And also, in addition, that also will establish certain requirements for renovation plans, especially any sort of exterior modifications to the building have to meet CHAP guidelines. Again, that is for any proposal, regardless of ownership.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So for our second question, just to keep us moving along here, can you restate your projected total costs?
Yes, I'm going to go back to my screen real quick. Let me move that down. I didn't bother to walk through this financial slide just because I could speak for an hour about this alone. But all in all, I am currently estimating that the project budget would be about $3.4 million. About 2.4 of that would be hard cost construction costs, to answer the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions in the chat? Thank you.
So we have one question here. Are you saying you'd like to buy the property for less than 10,000?
So in these financial numbers, I have a pretty much a zero on the acquisition cost, in part because I don't know what DHCD's full expectations are in that regard. But if it was said that the property has to be bought for 100,000 or 500,000, that would just be worked into the equation here. And obviously, it would make the project feasibility harder. More funding would have to be secured, of course. It's not a non-starter, but oftentimes when it comes to these kinds of situations where you have a building in public hand going into private hands, the acquisition price can be a little bit of a a lever in order to make sure that the project gets done. And so I guess to answer the question, maybe for now, for these numbers, because it wasn't exactly specified that the DHCD is looking for an absolute hard number. I am assuming that that's indeed, not the case.
Thank you. Any questions in the chat, please? Any questions in the chat?
Do we know what the cost was for stabilizing the building? Howard, is this a question you could answer?
Yes, I believe, and Matt, I think you can, obviously you'll correct me if I'm off a little bit. I believe it was 1.3 million dollars.
I think that sounds correct. We can confirm how much that was, how much it was.
Thank you.
So we have a follow-up question on the stabilization. Is the stabilization already done by the city? So we can answer that when the stabilization was completed by the city using city funding as well as some state funding.
And it was, yeah, and I could add, the stabilization work was it was much more extensive than I had anticipated. When I visited the site at the walkthrough a couple weeks ago, I thought that we had just put on a new roof. We put on a new roof, but also there's like all new joists and flooring, or subflooring throughout the building. So it was very extensive, the amount of stabilization work that the city has already expended, which is great for these applicants, because that's all lots of dollars that they won't have to spend on the building.
That is correct. Any questions? Final call for questions in the chat.
Oh, Howard, I was checking through my emails. Rochelle, it was $2.2 million.
Oh, all right.
Yep. Has been spent on stabilization of the building by the city.
I was a little off. Okay.
So there's another question about the proposed cost to purchase. So I think at this point, it does make sense to state clearly that the department does not have a set number, and that would be something negotiated as a part of the process. So, any one of these proposals, they all picked a number just for their own internal math. But certainly the purchase price is something that would be settled after an applicant is selected to move forward.
All right. I believe that will be it at this time. Mark, thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll be in contact with you shortly.
Okay.
To our attendees, thank you very much for participating in our community presentation for 1313 Druid Hill. Again, appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules. And to everyone still on the call, continue having a great week. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it. Have a good night, all.
All right. Good
Thank
night,
you,
everyone.
Howard, Nick, and everybody. Good night.